Hi everyone, this is Oksana, and today we're going to be making this really fun pendant that has a heart here at the top that is made out of twisted wire, which has been twisted and then hammered. So it's got a really cool texture here. So if you want to see how I made this pendant, just keep watching. So for our base wires, we're going to be using 20 gauge in square copper and also in round copper. So 2 pieces of the square and 2 pieces of the round is what I'm gonna do, and I got these spools from riogrande.com. This is just dead soft copper. So I have my 4 pieces of wire here. I have the 2 round and then the 2 square, and these are quite long, but we need the twist part to be a little bit long because the wire gets shorter when you twist it. So this ends up being 13 inches, and then the stone that I have, it is a round sapphire. It looks like this, has a really cool shine to it. It is pretty rough on the back. So it measures, it doesn't have to be round, by the way. It could be an oval, or it could be, if you do a teardrop, you have to position it point down so you have that kind of rounded portion on the top. So it's just a smidge less than an inch, almost an inch, or if I'm doing it in millimeters, it's like 24 millimeters. Not that yours has to be this exact size, just anything in this ballpark. If it's a lot bigger, then you could use slightly thicker wires if you wanted to, but it would need to be a lot bigger, like this big. Then I would size up to maybe like 19 gauge instead of 20 gauge. So the way that we're going to position these wires is we are going to make a little sandwich, and we're going to have square wire, then the 2 round wires, and then the square wire again. So it's gonna be pretty hard to tell probably by looking at it, but I have square wires on either side and then the 2 round wires in the middle. And so I'm just going to the middle of that, like just holding that whole group of wires here in the middle. And then I'm using some half round wire as per normal. This is just 24 gauge dead soft half round copper. And I'm just gonna do my typical thing where I just wrap around to connect all of those wires. So I'm just grabbing the end here, and I'm just gonna get it started by wrapping that little end around a few times, and then when I start to run out, I'm gonna move on to the other side. So on the other side, because it's still connected to the spool, we just turn the piece and guide the wire. And then with the round wires in the middle there, they can start to kind of bunch up together a little bit. And if that starts to happen to you, all you have to do is just press on this little wrap. And that kind of fixes it, as you can see. So I'm just going to do this a little more. I want more than just a couple wraps. All right, I think that's good. And now I'm just gonna trim so that the ends of my wire are here on the same side. And now I'm gonna press down on all of that. I don't know if this is a little bit too long. No, it's not too long, it's all good. So press down on all of that. And now we want to make a bend in this. So the side with the wire ends, which is this side, that's the side that's going to face the stone. So this is optional. You can just bend this around your round stone, but I wanted to have like a little gap, a little point on the bottom. So that's why I'm going to bend it like this, and the wire ends are in here where the stone is going to sit. And so this outer part doesn't have any wire ends. It's all good. So I'm just gonna bend it a smidge more. That looks good. And now I'm gonna grab my stone, and now I'm just gonna put it here. See what I mean about the little gap here on the bottom? So you didn't have to do that. You could just bend the frame around the stone, but I wanted to have this little gap, and this is gonna be positioned like this. So it'll be the bottom of the pendant. So we're just bending the wires around the stone. If you put it down on a flat surface, it'll be easier. And I'm going to show you a little trick here that you could do with round stones. So because the stone is quite flat, and I have quite a few wires here that I'm trying to bend, some of the wires, they're not staying together nicely, and you can see some are going forward onto the stone. So what's easy about round stones is there's a lot of rounded objects, like a ring mandrel or any kind of, you know, other tools you might have. Like I have some makeup brushes that have a pretty thick round handle to them. So there's objects that I could find around my house that have a round shape like this. And so what you could do is, since we already bent it a little bit, I can tell roughly the size that it needs to be, which is kind of the biggest size here on the ring mandrel. And I can use that instead of my stone, since my stone is thin and it keeps like sliding in and out. But this, it's not gonna slide, so I can just use that and bend my frame around it, and then you just have to look to make sure that when you pinch these wires together, it's nice and centered here. So I'm just pinching them together and kind of going side to side to make that little connection here. So I'm just going to check again by looking this way to make sure that it is coming straight across. All right, I think that looks good, and let me just double check that that was a good size for my stone. So it's a little bit too big for my stone, so I'm just going to kind of straighten these out a little bit so that I can put my stone in and then bring them closer together. And now it's a good size for my stone. So once you've made your frame and you have the wires together here, you can reinforce them a little bit by taking your pliers and just making that bend a little bit sharper, and maybe just pressing the whole thing together like this. There we go. Now it's a little bit better. You just want to make sure no wires have crisscrossed with each other. They're still just all going nicely across, and then here they're just kind of stacked together. You have the square ones in the front and in the back, and then the round ones in the middle, and then we can connect them all together with our half round wire. So I'm just pinching it because otherwise they move out of place. So I'm pinching them to hold, and then once I do a few of these wraps, it's just all gonna stay together nicely. So I'm just wrapping a few times with the wire end here of my wire. The rest of the wire is still connected to the spool, and then I'm just gonna slide that down, and I'm just gonna take this And I'm just gonna pull on it and trim that off. Really short. And if you can still see your wire end a little bit, it didn't get completely trimmed short, you can just press down on it like that to hide it. So now our frame is good, it's all connected. So we're just gonna, don't cut this wire yet, we're gonna make the bail with it. We're gonna take those two frontmost wires, which are square, they're from the square wire that was in the front. We're gonna bend them forward like this, and we're just gonna take this wire and we're gonna guide it around those two wires as we twist the piece, and that is going to make our bail. I like my bail to be about 3/4 of an inch. That seems to be a good size bail that I like, not too big, not too small. So I'm just gonna keep doing this until it gets to be roughly that length. All right, so this looks long enough. I just trimmed that little wire. You can see the little end of it there. So you want the wire end to be here on the top. And we're just gonna press across that whole bail. Like this. So this is the front when we're looking at it. It's gonna be bent kind of like this, but we're not gonna do the bail yet. We just got it all ready to go here. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take those round wires, and there should be 2 of them on each side. So we're just gonna bend them to their respective sides like this. And, oh, I can see that little wire end here from when we started doing our bail, so I'm just gonna push that in. There we go. Hide that away, and so now I'm gonna lock my stone in. So I'm gonna take my stone, figure out how I want it to be positioned, pop it in here, and then I'm gonna use my pliers. I'm gonna grab these Xuron tweezer nose ones, which are super old and dirty, as you can see, but they just have really nice flat ends here, which make it so easy to grab those wires and to like wedge them in between wires. So I'm just bending my back wires here, just like that. And now on the front, just wedging it in here, sliding down, and you can slide all the way down if you want, or you can just stop here where the stone starts and make your bend here, because we have that gap on the bottom there. And then just doing that on the other end, trying to keep it symmetrical where I bend it. So it's the same on both sides. There we go. That's good. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna twist these round wires. So to twist them, we need to position them so that there is a gap. So I just moved the first one up from the other one, and now once we have this little gap, we can go ahead and twist like this, and then twist again. And again, and as long as you keep this nice and even, like so one wire isn't more straight than the other, that they're like at the same angle. As long as you do that and just go nice and slow, one twist at a time, you should get a nice even twist like this. You can see here in the beginning, this twist isn't as tight because it's just really close to here. So what you can do is just come in here with your pliers and just take it and turn it, and now we fixed it so it's just twist it here in the beginning. So it's just more even all the way through. So this is a bit of a slow process. I'll probably go ahead and speed it up, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do this for quite a while. All right, so that's why we needed the wire so long, because when you twist, it makes it shorter. So this is probably long enough. It definitely looks long enough. So what we're gonna do now is these wires, we are going to bring them together like this so it's a little bit easier to work with. I know it kind of messes up the twist at the very end here, but that's okay. We're not gonna, that part's gonna get cut off anyway. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna start to curve it into my heart shape. Just so this is like half of the heart. So you want this to kind of swoop across here and form half of the heart, and the other half's gonna be here on the side. And so once you have it in this curve, in this bend, how you want, what you wanna do is just lift it up a little bit, because we're gonna hammer it. So I'm just gonna lift it up a little bit. We can move these wires out of the way, and then if you find that your bail is in the way, you can just kind of gently bend it to the side, and then we'll bend it back when we're done with the hammering. So I just want to maintain that curve, and I want to go ahead and hammer this whole bit. So I had to lift it so that when I take my iron block that I'm going to be hammering on, and my hammer here, so that I can rest this portion on the iron block, and I'm going to hammer just every part of it up here, and then I'm just going to move it down and hammer it down here. So normally you would just have this on the floor, but I don't know if I can do it holding it in the air in front of the camera. I'm going to try to do it. There we go. Oh. All right. It's not staying very well, you guys. There we go. So you just want a chasing hammer, and you take the flat side of it. So you can see as you start to hammer it, it starts to kind of get this flattened look to it. So I'm going to do the rest. I'm going to put this on the ground because this is really heavy to hold, and I'm really struggling to do this in the air, but you just want to hammer the whole part of this. All right, so I finished hammering it, and you can see that cool look that it gets when it's nice and flat. So we had to lift it up, so now we're just going to gently push it back down, have it come across. Sometimes you can just take your pliers and just kind of gently bend this part to make sure that it is flat. And so then I want it to kind of swoop like this. I'm not going to bend it to the back quite yet. I'm going to do the other one. That way they can be nice and even, and I can make sure they look good before I connect them. So my bail, I bent to that side. Now I'm just going to very gently bend it out of the way to the other side, and we are going to twist these two round wires. So the same thing, we're going to start off by just making that separation in them and just gently twisting together bit by bit. I'm just going to jump in here with my pliers to tighten up that first little twist so that it goes all the way down. And now we're just gonna continue doing this for a while until it's just as long as the other one. All right, so once it's nice and long, we're just gonna bring those wires together. And now we're just gonna try to do the same kind of curve so that our heart shape is the same here as it is on the other side. All right, so I think that looks the same. And now you can really see the difference between the regular twist and the hammer twist. And if you happen to like the regular twist better, you don't have to hammer it. It's just an option. I just kind of like the flattened look of this. So now we're gonna hammer this bit. So we're just gonna lift it up a little bit so we can put it on our iron block, and then we're gonna just hammer it on the iron block like this. I'm just gonna do it on the ground off camera. All right, so after it's been hammered, we're just gonna push it back down, and our bail, we're just gonna put it back in the middle. Now we're gonna make sure that the heart is looking even. And we're gonna bend these wires right on the edge, the top edge of the stone, from front to back. So after you bend one, you can kind of line up your other one so it matches nicely. And then bend that one as well. All right, and then when you're happy with how that looks, we can go ahead and trim this in the back here, and then we're gonna tuck that away. So that's why we had to do it at the top edge of the stone, because we have to tuck it away in there above the stone. So I'm just trimming it and leaving myself a little end there, so I have an end to grab and tuck away. And now with my pliers, I'm just taking that end and I'm pointing it in here. And then I'm just pressing it down. You have to be pretty careful here because it's been hammered and twisted, and so it can break easily, and so you don't want to mess around too much with these little wires here because they can kind of snap off. So now I'm just gonna do this end as well. There we go. It's more like you're just like gently bending and curving them in there. It's not like the normal wires where you just press down on it really tight because they might break. Okay. So everything's good. This one is kind of like a sharp little angle here. I'm just gonna gently press down on that. All right, so now we just have these back wires. I'm just gonna trim them off. You could do some kind of decoration. You can follow the heart along for like a double wire looking bit. There's lots that you could do with these wires, but I'm just gonna keep this simple, and I'm just gonna grab them so that I can make a sharp bend like this with my pliers so that I can trim them. All right, so now we got rid of those wires, and it's time to finish off the bail. So for the bail, you just take the 2 wire ends here and you can put them through any gaps really that you want, as long as they get from the back to the front. I'm going to put them through these little triangular gaps that got formed here by the heart. So I'm just kind of helping them go through, guiding the bail. Then once it gets small enough, I'm just kind of pressing down on it. And then I'm taking these wires, kind of opening them up here. So there's one wire on each side here. And then if you can see the wires here, you can just press down on them so that they will be up against these wires here, and you won't see a gap. And then all you do is just swoop them across from front to back like this, and now we can just trim them on the back and tuck them away. So I'm just taking the little wire end here, turning it inwards. Here you can see it, pressing down, tucking it away, and the same thing here on this other side. And tucking that away. All right, and now it is completed. All right, so here is the completed piece. I think it looks really cool with this texture. It's gonna look really nice if you choose to oxidize the copper as well, because that's gonna add some dimension to this twist. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.